Next item on the agenda is the pre-town meeting preparation and informational session. We have several guests with us as usual. Kelly Dowling, our town clerk, with us. Lou Little, the town moderator, Michael Ford, town council, Mike Solitro. Okay,
Good evening.
good evening,
Good evening.
welcome.
So in a little bit different form from previous years, we will never miss an opportunity with a captive audience to try to share information about what we're trying to do and what's happening at the town meeting. And so in addition to what we would normally do at this meeting tonight and talk about what's coming up with the warrant, we're actually going to do a run-through of what we're planning on presenting at the meeting, town meeting, in a couple of weeks, and that way we can sort of fine tune. Don't worry, I know you're thinking this is gonna take a long time. It's not. I promise you. So we can get feedback and see where some questions might be, some pockets of questions, if there are any, and sort of making sure that, like, we're all on the same page about moving it along. It's not gonna be long. It's just gonna be organized, right? So. We are planning on having the slides on the screen like we did before. Part of what the board needs to decide tonight in conversation is who is going to be presenting which articles, so you can talk about that after this part. So obviously, 1 through 11 are consent calendar. Yes, everyone's good there. Then we do have we have our staff here tonight who wanted to do their presentations very briefly, brief run-through, so that we could share those clips if there's any that are needed. So, is Jeff still here?
Yep.
Perfect. So like, very quickly, and then you can provide feedback about whether or not anyone thinks that we've covered it, we don't need to do it again, we need more information here. We really do want to get, we sort of operate in a bubble, so we really do want the feedback if there's things that we haven't picked up on. So, go ahead, zip right through it.
All right.
Zip right through it.
Got it. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss this. Article 12 is to fund the design of the new fire rescue station. That's $4.5 million. The context of this slide is really to talk about the major deficiencies of, got that? Thank you, of the current facility that we've talked about on a number of occasions over the last many years. The air quality, the contamination, the lack of male and female spaces, inadequate space, no training space, the major maintenance issues that we continue to battle on a daily basis, among others. The design process will allow us to answer a number of important questions related to the project, in particular the exact square footage, the exact location on the site at 58 Eldridge Parkway where the station will go, and our ability to accurately cost the project so we can be very specific about the number brought forward. In the photos that are shown, in particular on this slide, are the challenges of the current facility. Top left, that's our fitness area, which is actually in an apparatus bay. The ladder truck actually backs into that area, so you have to go under the bucket of the ladder truck to go to the other trucks. It's in a contamination zone. The next bay over is where we work on the trucks, so where the oil changes and the different repairs that go on the trucks are all in the same space. And we know that these cause health issues for firefighters. The top right is an example of where rodents have infiltrated the building at different points. They've also infiltrated our generator and a trailer out back where we've had major damage. Number 3 in the bottom left, that's our first aid room. It's also our public lobby. About 200 people a year come into our fire station having medical emergencies. So when you walk in to get a permit, there could be a medical emergency happening in front of you. We don't have separate spaces for that. And then the bottom right, it just shows the closeness of the vehicles. It's very hard to decontaminate, open doors, check equipment because the bays are so small now. The vehicles, unfortunately, have gotten bigger over the life of the station, but the station size has not caught up. And then my last slide, what a new fire station will do for us. And for us, it's for the fire department, but also for the community. Ensure the well-being of our firefighters and protect them from the hazards of their occupation. It'll remove the obstacles that slow response time within the current fire rescue station. With the training space, it'll ensure the training and readiness of our firefighters to respond to the emergencies of our community, that the vehicles and equipment are protected from weather and ready to respond. We have a number of vehicles that are left outside year-round, and the salt air is causing major damage to them. And ultimately, this is a quality of life thing for the firefighters, but also for our communities, that we are in the right facility to serve our town. Is that pretty quick?
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Jeff,
Excellent.
one quick one.
Sure,
Only-
absolutely, Kevin, thank you.
And Mike, can you go back to the previous one with the pictures? So Jeff, I know you talk this terminology every day, but that upper left where you say the workout in the apparatus
Yep.
bay is a potentially contaminated area, could you either add to or eliminate the use of word contamination? Just say what it is. It's carbon monoxide, right?
It's carbon monoxide, it's carcinogens.
And get
it's
those words out.
Diesel soot, yeah, understood. Appreciate that, Kevin, thank you.
Anything else on the fire station? Any other thoughts, feedback, messaging?
Oh, good.
That we might be missing for the town meeting?
Not for time, but we fixed this with this E there, right?
That's how it is currently.
We never fixed it?
That's how, there's a number of those within the, and around the fire station.
That is
As you
fixed.
see that is a current photo.
Okay, so
They did
either
wrap-
way, it's gonna take years if we get this approved and we're all supporting it. But
Yep.
we should get that fixed, like now. I don't understand.
They got screens up.
Yeah, we have screens to help reduce that problem, but we've had, in the last year, the generator, just real quickly, the generator, which is slightly off the building, was rodent infested. For the last couple of years, we've had quarterly or monthly pest control on that, to the point, this summer, the generator actually failed because of the rodent infestation within the generator. We had to have an emergency repair. So we're constantly chasing this stuff right now. Thank you.
One other suggestion,
Sorry.
Jeff.
Yep.
Just in terms of the increased number of staff, like as you went through this,
Yep,
you didn't really mention the fact that because of the more demand, we have more staff. and
Sure
more
thing.
Staff. Just like you said, the equipment, the trucks have gotten bigger to fit into that same space. I think you can throw in there. that
Absolutely.
the Staff has gotten much bigger. and trying to jam
Absolutely.
them
Yep.
into the same space.
sure. Thanks, Mark, I appreciate that.
And just to continue on that, the new fire truck that's on order, that's, what, a year or two out?
Yep.
Is it going to fit in the old fire
It will, yeah.
station?
It's, that truck is 6 inches longer than the current ladder truck that's shown in the sort of, in the top left there. It will fit, but we'll back just that much farther into that space, yes. Thank you.
This is pretty self-explanatory. Bills of a prior year. There they are. Okay,
They could change, right, by,
hopefully not. We're like 2 weeks out. I mean, this, about the budget, we're gonna keep it brief, right? In the highlights, everybody will have it in their hands. They've seen it at this point, hopefully, many, many times. I've just hit, it's this much, right? It costs this much. And then I put a slide in here about the override, and basically $989, and here's what it pays for. Okay? That's all I have on budget. If you hear any feedback between now and then that we need to do more on the budget, let me know, right? Because I will add it in here, or I will do something else, but just, right now, I'm keeping it very light, and I'm basically planning on answering questions if they come up from the floor. One of the things I added this year for the enterprise funds is a little more information, because without getting in the weeds too far, you know, we internally spent a lot of time working on the debt part of it and what pays for what this year. So I just added a little context in each of these so people understand. So when they see the changes in future years, like the budget is $2.8 million. 12% of that for the beach is debt. That's a common question. That means everything else is operations, right? But right now, it's 100% funded for beach revenues. So in future years, when we come back, if it ends, it's, you know, it goes from 100 to 90, or at least we're sort of tracking it so the public is aware.
refresh me, I thought it's supported from beach revenues and retained earnings, right?
Yes, but retained, this is Lynn's, as Linda said this to me there, retained earnings are from beach revenue. So in this slide, they are your previous year's revenues saved, but keep going, yes. But I might make that note, she did say it to me. You'll see it's more clear on the next one.
One quick go back, though, Mike, sorry to do this, back on the budget and the override specifically. Kim, I think it would be helpful, and as we know, David knows, there are those that stand up in the meeting and ask, what have you done to control cost? What, you know, so I think we know we've been through the iterations of what this number started at, so I think it would be helpful for people to know that.
Well, and so I think, so conversationally, right, so this is the one that you would anticipate the most, right? So the budget is $53 million, but what does that actually mean? Well, it's up 4% over the previous year, right? Okay, on average for all of us. So what's in there? OES is in our budget, but it's assessments for the other two. These are the individual increases per the group. The town is 3.7, OES is 5.6, you know, school district is 5, and then Cape Cod Tech went down this year. Then the question would be like, well, remember, OES's percentages are based on our retirement increases. A largest part of their share of their increase is related to retirement and
Exactly.
in benefits. Like, it's not all, a lot of it is enrollment, but a lot of it is also just costs, right? So then for the override part, and this is where it gets tricky. I don't think we put it on the slide, but I think we do say, town has been we've been very transparent about our need to order, create, retain. We've been negotiating with our 5 unions this year. We spent a lot of time working with them. You know, we worked really hard to get this number down. We've been working on it the last couple of months, you know, it started out at almost double this.
Here we go.
This is our final number, and all that's really left that we need for the override. But what's interesting is the amount of the increases overall are actually much higher than this, but because we made reductions in efficiencies in other areas of the budget, we were able to subsidize some of the impact of this override. And so, you know, we're gonna put a list together and give that, I mean, I just didn't know how far to go down the rabbit hole in terms of minutia. But I know people wanna know that we did it,
I think
and that's
just-
really the.
Yeah,
right.
just saying that would be helpful.
So, I kept it light, basically. So, it's a budget. So the enterprise fund, yes, retained earnings. So here, now if you'll appreciate, so for the sewer, right, same thing. The budget is $4.5 million. 35% of that is debt, right? Now, 31% of the revenues come from operations. 57% come from stabilization, the stabilization fund. Short-term rental, right, because we're just gonna say it. And then 12% from reserves, because, you know, this is the one in which we're using current years and last year's to balance this budget. So I might go back and edit the beach one. So, next, we're good here. Transfer station, same thing. The budget's 1.3. 96% of that is operations, 4% is debt. 57% is from operations, 33 from reserve, and then this is the one that you're always asking, right? How much of that is on the tax bill? 10% of their budget, so $140,000 taxation, right?
Which is substantially less than it used to be.
Well,
Because we used to have a, what, 60-40 split or a 70-30
so
split?
you have the ability to do so, but in my tenure, 2 years, it actually wasn't higher than 30% when I got here. It was in the 30s, it's been in the 30s since I've gotten here. So I think you had the ability to do so. I don't know that you ever flexed all that way.
So, but at least it has, the general fund support has gone from 30% to 10%.
Right, and at least now it's recognized at the town meeting. It's right up on the screen, and then they'll have the articles in their hands to know what that means. It means this. So without going, you know, into it too far, like we told you what it was. Okay, good, Mike. And then this one is the CIP. You know, we'll both be up there. Mark can answer about anything in particular, each one. I can talk about the thing as a concept. You know, we'll talk about what that means if people really want to get into it. It adopts a 5-year plan, right? The next one is the capital budget. Mark will be doing this one with all of the minutia that's in there. Here, there might be some amendments. That's fine. We'll be prepared for that, too. Whatever may be, right? We know how to do all of that. Next, solar, you want to talk about that?
Time.
Well, capital, but,
So with this article, as you know, the select board set a goal to really look for ways to move forward and identify solar and alternative energy opportunities. This article addresses that. We're looking to fund solar projects at the wastewater treatment facility, the water treatment facility, and the DPW facility, with a note there that the project at the DPW would provide net metering credits for the police station. Right now, there's a $5 million number associated with this article. Unfortunately, we will not have an exact number for town meeting. So we're really looking to authorize this 5 million. We do not anticipate necessarily that the projects would cost that much. It's going to really take advantage of state and federal tax credits and advantages through the state incentive programs. And so, yeah, that's where we are with that.
I do think that the fact that there is a payback, a payback time is important to say that. I mean, 6 or 7 years is what I've heard on this model, and I guess the analysis of how that goes is still coming, because the option of not doing this as a capital project, but as a, third party provider is still out there, even though preliminary work has shown that this option is, way better.
Right. And the select board would obviously have the opportunity to make a decision still as to whether or not they would even want to move forward with a borrow for an ownership or to take the route of the power purchase agreement. But I do think you're right. I think we'll make some notes in here about the benefits of payback being, if you look at a 25-year life of a project, we're looking at we could just say generally 5 to 10 years payback benefit. So we can make a note. I do know that the Energy and Climate Action Committee are working with the Orleans Climate Action Network to produce some sort of handout as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I may, I don't know if we might also want to mention, if we're talking about timelines, where we've seen electricity prices come from in the last 10 years to where they are now. And then where, we can project, but we don't know what they're going to be. We don't have a crystal ball. But if there any indication of where they've come in the last 20 to 10 years, and they've tripled or quadrupled, versus the timeline of what this is going to pay out is huge to me. This is a financial win for the town. So that's where I see this. But
Sure. Thank you.
Evening, folks. Nathan Sears, Natural Resources. Article 21, this is for the replacement of the Goose Hummock Town Landing bulkhead on Town Cove. That bulkhead was built in 1973 with creosote-treated timber. It's way past its life expectancy. We brought in an engineer in 2018, assessed the condition of the bulkhead. At that time, it was deemed in failure. We had to put a load restriction on it. We had to actually put Jersey barriers up along the edge of the parking lot so that people wouldn't park cars along it. It is failing on the face of the bulkhead, has holes in the front of it so that it's not able to retain material anymore, and it's seeping into Town Cove. The estimated cost of the project is $1.6 million. As you can see in the picture, that's the section of bulkhead we're talking about. It's a continuous bulkhead that travels along the abutter's property. Phil Howarth of the Goose Hummock, he's been part of the conversation from day one. He's been working with our engineer as well, so that we build a bulkhead in hopes that anything that we put in place is easily connected to what he wants to do in the future. You can see some pictures there of the sinkholes above the bulkhead that we've filled with gravel continuously as needed. And there's a picture of one of the rotten seepages coming out of the face of the bulkhead. I mean, we got our years out of it. We're talking about creosote-treated timber, and it's seen better days at this point.
Mark.
Nate? Is there a drainage pipe that comes out through this?
There is, yeah.
Has that been looked at as part of
It
this
has,
study?
yeah, Jeremiah's gutter, which is connected across the street. Yeah, at one point, that had issues as well, but we sleeved that pipe. It's working effectively again. There'll be an extension placed on that, as well as a clapper valve in this project.
Thank you.
It's basically an oversheet over the front of this existing bulkhead with steel sheeting and a concrete cap, and they'll remove portions of the bulkhead as needed.
Quick one, Mark. Will it include cathodic protection?
Of course.
Thanks.
Beth, did you have a question?
No, I'm good.
Michael?
Just the timeline, what's the hypothetical timeline?
We have an order of conditions, and we're ready to go out to bid. So we'd be looking at fall, winter construction.
Thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
excellent. You need Mark for this, but I'll take it.
That number looks off.
This number looks off? This one? CPC, well, what's off is that the budget number in the book is wrong. So the number that was submitted from the CPC committee as the number that it needed is not actually the number that the articles add up to. And so therefore, the percentages are not calculated correctly.
But the motion's right.
Yeah, so we're going to have to amend that,
And the motion.
yes.
Who's going to make the motion?
Well, so, someone from CPC
Yeah, that's-
probably would make the motion. Normally, like, the chair would come to the floor and make the motion. The number that they submitted was the total amount of funds that they thought they had available, not the total amount that projects added to. So that will be a change. I just added a little line about, here about where the money comes from, right? The surtax and the grant match, but we could list the projects if we think that people want to see that on the screen, so.
One quick one, Mark, and David, this is for you, and I can't remember where I was, and I can share with you offline, but I did hear from a citizen who is taking issue with one or two of the items and asked me what the process would be. I said you would make a motion to amend on the floor. I'm looking at Mike Ford. I think you've trained us well.
In writing.
In writing, and, but.
Preferably at the beginning of town
Exactly.
meeting.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Because people are standing around, we have the opportunity for Mike to review it to see if it's within the scope of the article.
I will just share with you, I went back and looked at the projects that they recommended, and I don't think it is the project that they think they're eliminating, so
Okay.
we got a little more discussion to do, but just so you have a heads up.
Great. Thank you.
Rich Waldo, Director of Public Works, Natural Resources. Please bear with me. It's hard to make $40.5 million brief. This article, Article number 23, is for construction funding for Phase 3 of the sewer master plan. Part of this presentation is really to not only reiterate some things that have been discussed the last 10 years, but also to provide some information for people who have not been able to, or that has come to this community that has not been involved in a lot of the process. We use a lot of acronyms. I want to define those acronyms just so they understand what we're talking about. So CWRMP, you see that in the title of the article itself. What is that? That is the Comprehensive Wastewater Resource Management Plan. That is a detailed document that's recorded, that records a local planning process for the management of wastewater and reducing pollutants that are causing poor water quality. Why is this important? Because the Mass Department of Environmental Protections require every community in the Commonwealth to develop and implement such a plan. Now, there is particular emphasis on Cape Cod. The reason being is that the watersheds on Cape Cod are highly sensitive to nitrogen pollution, which can lead to impaired water quality and harmful marine life. The town of Orleans has been very proactive. They've been working on this for quite some years and initially had their CWRMP approved in January 2011. From that time, it has gone through many amendments to its latest that was completed in March of 2023. Some of those amendments, the key target things were expanding the sewer phasing. What was originally 6-phase projects, they turned it into 16 phases to reduce the impact for all the residents in the community. They added non-traditional technologies such as PRBs, which is permeable reactive barriers, as well as oyster aquaculture. These are other technologies that help target those nutrients that we're trying to reduce in our waterways that doesn't align with traditional sewering. So we are keeping an open mind to other avenues that we can approach. Primary focus is nitrogen removal, and then the last component of the amendments was to provide flexibility for more non-traditional technologies that might come along. 16 phases of sewer, you're looking at 50-plus years of construction or sewer-related work. We want to be able to adapt as technology changes. So what is the purpose and need for this? The main purpose is to remain compliant with the Mass DEP requirements. We're required to do something about our nutrient loading. That's what's critical for this project. It's also critical for us to meet our town water quality objectives. This town's been very active in trying to protect the environment we live in, which includes all our natural water bodies. Nutrient loading from septic systems are damaging our water quality. By supporting this funding request, we can harness the benefits of clean water, particularly as it relates to town benefits such as tourism and shellfishing, but also the environmental and recreational benefits. Support also allows us to avoid highly costly upgrades of septic system to innovative and alternative technologies. The new Title V code requires communities that don't adopt a CWRMP to upgrade into an IA system, which tends to be very costly and expensive. So the approach here is to focus on cost efficiency. By doing so, we are trying to utilize state funding as well as subsidies that are available to us through the Cape and Island Water Protection Fund. I will get into that a little more in a few slides from now. So what is the Phase 3 area? Phase 3 area really encompasses the area of Crystal Lake, Pilgrim Lake, Aries Pond, Cascade-Gansett Pond, also known as Lonnie's Pond, and Namaquoint River. The goal is to efficiently meet our nitrogen and phosphorus removal requirements. Nitrogen removal is based on a TMDL. TMDL stands for Total Maximum Daily Load. It is the calculation of the maximum amount of pollutants allowed to enter a water body so that water body can meet and continue to meet its water quality standards for that particular pollutant moving forward. A TMDL determines a pollutants reduction target and allocates load reductions necessary to the sources of pollutants. So when we put these phases together, we're looking at the reduction of TMDL for a particular pollutant to meet our target goal. Excessive phosphorus in a water body leads to several negative impacts, primarily due to its role in fueling excessive algae and plant growth. This process is known as eutrophication, which is essentially a reduction in oxygen, results in decreased water quality, potentially harmful algae blooms, habitat degradation, and risk to both human and wildlife health. The tan area that you see, that is the base bid of Phase 3. All parcels in that area are slated to be connected. It's 259 parcels that are highlighted in tan. The green area to the top right of the slide, that is a bid alternate area. If the bids come in favorable for construction, we will seek to include that area as well. If we do both the base and the additional area, we're looking at about 295 parcels to connect. The area in white is not slated to be connected. However, although it's not slated to be done at this time, it may be part of a future project in the future. I talked a little bit about the CWRMP amendments and how they introduced the additional phasing of the municipal sewer system. The map that is incredibly small, you cannot see, but they show 16 phases of sewering throughout the town of Orleans.
Can I ask you a question, Rich?
Yeah.
Are you gonna, or somebody gonna put a tripod out in the front so all these maps can be seen blown up?
I think the ones that we saw here earlier today will be out in the front area, so to answer your question, yes.
With a good label over, telling what they are?
Yeah. So Phase 3 is a critical component to the overall picture of the 16 phases, particularly as it plays a major role in our permitting commitments with the Pleasant Bay watershed. In addition, All future phases in South Orleans flow through Phase 3, particularly with the construction of the pump station number 5, which will be part of the Phase 3 project. So everything south of the area that's outlined in red needs to pass through the Phase 3 area. Overall, this phase will remove 8% of our nitrogen goal. This is the third highest of all 16 phases, so it is critical and comes at a timely time after Phase 1 and 2, which are the only phases that are larger in nutrient and reduction results. So talk about phasing and funding a little bit. It's an ideal opportunity for the town. Earlier this year, the town had submitted a project evaluation form to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. The intent of that was to get on an intended use plan. An intended use plan allows the town to pursue funding for construction of Phase 3 with the benefit of having 0% financing. So our target goal is to try to secure this funding as it is a critical component to funding this project. Out of 74 clean water applications to the SRF for financing, the town of Orleans was ranked number 4, and particularly because of its contributions to the water bodies that this phase surrounds, and coming off the heels of 2 other great phases of sewer that the town has already undertaken. Overall, about a third of the projects will get some sort of funding or financial assistance from the Clean Water SRF, but we're in very good shape to be able to get a full funding request that we have. So in order to do that, we need to be able to demonstrate that we have construction appropriation, and that's the importance of Article number 23. We get approval at town meeting, we get it subsequently ratified at the ballot box, then we're able to go and do a formal application to SRF to secure those funds. So we're in a great position to get potentially 0% financing, which is huge. $40.5 million. Anything close to market rate borrowing would throw this project pretty much out of the water, per se. In addition to that, we have the Cape and Island Water Protection Fund. This is a county fund. Its source of revenue is 2.75% excise tax on traditional lodging and short-term rental. My understanding is that the Cape and Island Water Protection Fund had already issued a decision to fund the potential projects in this next fiscal year up to 25%. So we know that we can get a subsidy of 25% on this project. Should we move forward, it passes. So
That was voted,
we had the-
that was voted yesterday.
Fantastic. So at 0% financing, we get 25% subsidy. So critical for the timing of this project. So here's just an overview of the map. The third star in from the left is where we are, where the big blue arrow is, annual town meeting. If this funding does get approved, we will submit that application to SRF. We hope to receive the positive review from them that we've been approved for funding. From that, we will issue a solicitation for bids sometime in early to mid 2026. We get favorable bids, we're going to be moving towards a contract, and we'll hope to award a contract in the middle of August and start construction probably in the fall of 2026. The work will be continue until the end of 2028, and at that time, the people in Phase 3 will start to get a notice to connect to Phase 3. So in a nutshell, that's the funding request for Article number 23.
Kind of a request, Rich. One of the things that seems to be a real loose understanding is the nitrogen loading, the nutrient loading basically is assigned to septic systems, road runoff, and fertilizer. Basically, those are the 3 biggies. And every place I go, and I hear people talk about that, they have different percentages. And it would be nice to have something up there that is a somewhat official breakout of how much is the nutrient loading is coming from our septic systems, how much is coming from our fertilizing, and how much is coming from road runoff, for a variety of reasons, because obviously this project is only dealing with septic systems, not.
It's getting stormwater too.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, whenever we do these projects, we include stormwater in the project area as well as replacing water service connections.
Okay, so, but in any case, I think my request is sort of the same.
Yep.
Is just to sort of put it out there, because obviously that leaves fertilizer as one of the things that hang out there with no particular way to deal with that other than people's voluntary willingness to not use it.
Excellent. Appreciate the feedback. I'll take that back to the team and see what we can do, put something together. I think it's a very good point.
Yeah, they did.
Michael, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Meth. It'd be nice to see. I mean, the last studies I've seen are fertilizers at 25%. And just remember, part of runoff is fertilizer. You know, you can't, runoff isn't just this ambiguous term. There are the components within runoff. And yes, there's road salts and oils and pesticides and fertilizer. So those all have to go in there, and then they're separately fertilizer. So I'm happy to share with you some of the last studies I've seen, but I've seen it upwards at 25% for just fertilizer.
And I think too, Rich, and David probably wants to call for a vote by this time because we've gone through a lot, but when we approved the alum treatment, that's what I just went over and checked to get my memory, but we did ask the neighborhoods around those ponds to commit to fertilizer reduction. I believe they agreed.
Oh, yeah, they voluntarily pledged to avoid using fertilizers and pesticides around these lakes, which was great.
It's great. Excellent. Thank you for the feedback.
The one question I had, and I'm glad you touched on it, but not at the beginning, and I don't know if you need to, but we're calling this the lakes and ponds. And of course, the biggest contributor to lakes and ponds is the phosphorus, not so much the nitrogen. And I know it runs down to Lonnie's, you know what I mean, and the Pleasant Bay watershed. Then you're worried about the nitrogen. But I just wanted to make sure that people know a lot of this is to protect those ponds are phosphorus sensitive, the fresh water.
Okay. Thank you.
But I thought your presentation was great.
Awesome. Great. So moving on to Article 24, a lot quicker here. So this is a request for $600,000 to provide support to the Phase 2 area for connection service support. Based on lessons that we learned from Phase 1, it is important that we understand the level of effort needed to provide effective support to the property owners in Phase 2. We learned this in Phase 1. This funding will allow our town engineers to collectively work with property owners and engineers to provide documentation for their connection, pretty much particularly with the basis of design. These funds will be used to review and comment on connection designs, to ensure conformance with our sewer use rules and regulations, coordinate not only with town staff, but our wastewater treatment plant, their operators on the connections, so we can have timely connection data when someone connects, that their meters are read, and proper coordination, and inspect the connections on behalf of the town as it connects to the municipal sewer system. Very important request here. I think it's, certainly supports the segue to connecting to the sewer, and this requests $600,000, so hopefully we can get this supported as well.
Beth?
Just one question that somebody asked me was, the support that this is going to provide to the Phase 2 property owners is not more support than what was provided to the Phase 1 property owners. I guess that was a question, I guess, that's worth asking, but it's no increase in town support for anybody.
No. Same support. It's just continuing the program going. There's 395 properties in Phase 2. And so, that's a lot of work to make sure that coordination with each one of these property owners to ensure that they're connected properly, and then well documented on our end. So, but no more support. No less, no more.
And I would just add too, this helps as Rich has got the coordination with town staff, our operator, and the town inspection. These outside services are a big relief to town in coordination with Board of Health responsibilities on abandoning Title V and then ensuring the new connection is satisfactory. So otherwise, we'd be sending town staff out to chase all these things down. This is a huge benefit.
That's it. Thank you.
So with all the detail that came from Rich, I don't have to go through a whole lot here at all. This article has to do with water quality testing in 4 locations, 3 of which are regulatory requirements that the community has, and the other Boland Pond Management Plan is the second phase of a project that will lead to a complete management plan for water quality improvements on that water body. So, Mike, I think I gave you a second slide. I just put down the cost for each of the projects. I don't think there's anything more to be said on this. I think people understand this is an ongoing requirement. So on the mill pond, this was something that came at the wastewater management advisory committee fairly quickly. This is a request to fund an evaluation of short-term actions to improve water quality in the mill pond in the Noss estuary. From the little picture, you can see that the mill pond does not have any public sewer improvements until phase 11 of our program. So that's many years away. So we have a pond that has demonstrated water quality issues with low oxygen, excessive plant growth, nitrogen levels that exceed thresholds and have risen in the past several years. So we want to take actions now that can integrate with and be consistent with our long-term actions. So if funded, we would go through a series of evaluations of alternatives that could be implemented. Some of these are traditional alternatives, such as sewers or doing a package plant for that neighborhood, or even looking at IA systems, on-site denitrifying systems for the neighborhood. Others are successful, non-traditional alternatives, such as shellfish. We've used it before, and we've learned a lot about permeable reactive barriers and their potential in Orleans. So this is a quick study to try to find short-term alternatives so that we don't let the mill pond languish in its current water quality state while we're trying to deal with other parts of town. That's it.
Only thing I would add, Mr. Chair, is to the extent people might say, so if this was in a later phase, is this a jumping people ahead? So I think you got an answer to that.
I think it is it is a jumping ahead, but this is to look at whether there are some options that make sense now that can be incorporated into our later plan. And one of the options will be to look at whether phase 11 in the mill pond actually needs to be part of phase
There
4.
we go.
Yeah, I think that's it there.
Can we go back to 25? Yeah, I just wanted to point out, we've taken out the funding for the
The townwide sampling, that's in the town budget,
it's in the
yes.
town budget, and that's why people won't see it here, but it's been taken care of.
Right, and I don't think I'll say that.
Thank you for putting it in.
unless
I
it's
don't think you
necessary.
need to, but for.
Right.
And then the second one on Article 26, I know we had a consensus from the select board that we were going to also extend those requests to the properties abutting, that they would look to voluntarily avoid using fertilizer and pesticide. And I didn't see fertilizer in there at all in kind of one of the things you're gonna look at, which I think if we're putting it on the screen for other things and not having it at all listed is kind of
Good point.
kind of crazy if it's the second biggest contributor. You know, I understand you might not have, it might not be fully be able to be developed into, but it should be at least listed.
I'm with you, Michael, I got it, thank you. Now for something very different. This is a proposal to amend zoning to allow home delivery of marijuana products in Orleans. The article will change one definition and add a new definition for marijuana courier to align with the state regulations. The key here is that today, retailers from other towns can already deliver marijuana products to Orleans. And if they do so, that sale actually took place in the sending town, and the town of Orleans does not get any of the 3% revenue on that sale. So this is leveling the playing field. Mike, if you go to the next page. The only thing I put in here, I thought it was good to show that the 3% local tax is what accrues to the town of Orleans. That revenue commenced last fiscal year. There was a little dribble from the previous that didn't come in till later. The total revenue to date is $119,000. This is for 3 quarters of FY '25. We don't know what the last quarter will be. The key takeaway here is that this enables local retailers to compete effectively with other retailers from other establishments for delivery in Orleans. Did you have a comment, Meth?
I just, pointing out that that's, from one retailer where in fact we have 2 now. I'm
Yes.
assuming everybody knows that.
Yeah, I think that's your biggest point on that, George, is that we are allowing delivery, or delivery is allowed already in the
Right.
town of Orleans, but it's being done by businesses.
By
that are
non-local
not- or
retailers.
Not local retailers, so it's already happening, but we'd love it to be with our local retailers if possible.
You're just giving away revenue, and I couldn't estimate how much that is or even make a guess at it, but that's why I put the $119,000 total revenue for the first year.
Thank you.
And George, do you include planning board report on this?
Well, this is a presentation of the article and the justification. The planning board chairman will make his report
Okay.
on this article and why it should be passed.
Perfect.
In fact, I don't know that you need these slides to be presented at all. I think you can just go with the planning board chairman's report, and I'll stand up there if there are other questions about
It's a pretty good
particulars.
slide right there.
Yeah.
You like that one,
You just have it in the back. Like that's, like last year, they were just kind of scrolling,
Right.
so they could just be there.
I think we want consistency, with the image up there and the size, if it becomes all these reports
John Ostman.
that you can't read all of a sudden, it's
Right.
gonna be a problem in the middle of the meeting.
It's there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Good evening, Elizabeth Jenkins, Planning and Community Development. Article 28 applies to the efforts of the Affordable Housing Trust, established to create and preserve housing for low and moderate income households and families in Orleans. This article will define what a moderate income household is in Orleans as one earning up to 120% of the area median income. Now, funds that are administered by the trust come from 2 primary sources. The first is from Community Preservation Act funds. It's very clear that those funds are eligible to be used to support families earning up to 120% of area median income. What did I say? 120? 100% of area median income. The second source are funds that do not come from Community Preservation Act, and the trust has never formally defined the maximum income eligibility for these non-CPA funds. So with this article, the trust is seeking to serve households earning up to 120% AMI in recognition of the fact that housing affordability continues to creep up the income scale, and that housing scarcity and rising costs are keeping middle-income earners and families from finding and affording housing in our community. So by approving this article, it's giving the trust and the public a very clear definition of income eligibility for a certain portion of trust funds, and it's allowing the trust to serve more households and families in need with a portion of their funding.
Thank you.
You're going to present this, Mr. Chair?
Nobody is. One of us.
Demolition?
This is the select board's desire.
Yes.
Oh,
Happy to do it.
yeah, I'll, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I can speak to this. So this article you see annually it addresses cost of living adjustments for non-union personnel that are under the personnel bylaw. So you'll see the cost of living adjustments, the new chart And then we are working to align benefits that we've offered to union employees through the recent negotiations with all 5 of our unions for the non-union employees as well. So we want to make sure we're offering similar benefits. All of these changes have been supported by the Personnel Advisory Board. And I would also add that the amendments are available in the town clerk's office for review.
Oh, good evening, all. Brad Hinote, Town Assessor. Article 31 addresses the passage of the HERO Act by the State House last year in October. At present, we have several clauses of property tax exemptions available to veterans, disabled veterans, that range from $400 to a full exemption, depending on the level of disability you have. Those amounts have been the same for a very long time, but with the passage of the HERO Act, we're allowed to increase them now by up to 100% with the approval of town meeting. So that's what we'd like to do. In Orleans, we have 43 properties that receive one of our disabled veterans exemptions. 41 of them would benefit from this. 32 would, as you can see, go from $400 to $800, and 9 exemptions would increase from $1,000 to $2,000. And we wouldn't need any additional funding for this. This comes out of part of our annual allocation that we make to the overlay account when we submit our tax recap.
Can we go back to the previous slide? Just a simple question. Right now, we can do full exemptions, but we're saying up to 100%.
So it depends on what the clause specifically allows. Several clauses do allow a full exemption on real estate taxes, but it's specific criteria. For instance, a widow of a veteran who died in combat, something like that.
This will cover everything.
This covers everyone who's getting one of the incremental amounts.
Thank you.
All good?
Cool.
The Seasonal Communities Designation is a policy initiative that was created out of landmark housing legislation passed by the Commonwealth last year, designed to counter rising housing costs caused by high demand and limited supply. Seasonal Communities Designation is a recognition of municipalities like Orleans that experience substantial seasonal variations in population and employment. The town of Orleans has been designated by the Commonwealth as a seasonal community, but this designation must be accepted by a vote of town meeting. Accepting the seasonal communities designation will give the town access to new tools to address unique housing needs, including being able to acquire and develop housing specifically for public employees, creating a year-round housing trust, and creating and preserving housing for individuals who produce or support artistic or literary initiatives in our community.
Just the devil's advocate thing here.
Yep.
When you start using words like access to and whatever else, what this is a bundle of opportunities that are available to the town if the town chooses to use them. And if the town does choose to use them, is that something that has to go back to town meeting? Or is that something that's going to be under the decision-making power of somebody in town?
So I think it depends on the tools. So for example, if we were going to establish a year-round housing trust, yes, that would require additional action. If we were going to expend funds to support housing for municipal employees, that might come through another set of approvals.
And just, my last question is just, is there any sort of requirements that choosing to accept our designation would place on the town, regulatorily or any other way?
So there are no sort of automatic mandatory requirements of the seasonal communities designation. If we were going to make other policy changes in response to it, they would have to go through a public process and bylaw changes approved by town meeting.
Thank you.
I think that's an important point. I want to get up there. We're not forced to do anything by accepting
Right.
this.
There's no automatic change of requirements. It's not like statewide ADUs where all of a sudden
Exactly.
you have to allow ADUs. Okay. Thank you.
If you use the term mandate, that there are no mandates attached to
No
this, I
mandates.
think that's
People
what
like that, yeah.
people get freaked out about. Oh, you buy into this, now you're mandated
Right.
to do all these other things, and there are none. It does not obligate us or mandate us to do anything, it's all of our own choosing. It
Understood.
gives us the opportunity to do those things.
Great. Thank you.
I guess I can take it, I mean, this is a request from the district to establish a special education stabilization account, much like we did for OES the previous years, to potentially, it doesn't actually allocate any funding, it just creates the ability to create the account.
But it would be the intention going forward that there would be a regular sort of
Well,
funding into that account to sort of,
Which would have to be,
Smooth out the,
it'd have to be an article at a town meeting
Right.
to do so. Right.
It would be the regional school committee doing that.
Mike? Okay, Article 34 is to authorize the Select Board to enter into an easement with Eversource for EV charging stations at Depot Square. This has been a project that has been in the works for before I even arrived here in town. And so this is a good sign that we're getting to a better place towards actually getting the construction of these fast chargers in place. So once this article is hopefully passed, the Select Board can then enter into an easement agreement with Eversource.
Jeff?
one piece of information that I think would be good to have would be just, is there some sort of an accounting of how many charging stations are in town today? How many are well, right, fast charging or old-fashioned charging, but for instance, at Stop and Shop, there's Tesla-only charging, and so there is, I think, I don't know that anybody is keeping an inventory of what exists today.
Yeah, there's a handful. I can,
And what
not
are,
many. There's no, as a electric vehicle driver myself, there are no fast chargers that I can access in Orleans.
and the town only has two.
Right.
Town has 2 ports, 1 charger, two plugs.
The ones that Stop and Shop are not ours.
I know.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In general, the amount of charging stations. But the town has charging stations here at Town Hall
Or town vehicles.
for town vehicles only,
Right.
but also the Depot Square one, which is a slow charging.
Right. Yep.
Okay. And then we have one citizen's petition, fund the budget to enable a residential exemption. This article obviously will have to be explained by the petitioner, but essentially, it's a request to move funding in order to provide resources within the town's operating budget to support the research related to considering a residential property tax exemption in the future. The board votes on this in the fall of every year, has already voted on it this past year for this fall, did not vote to make a change to the tax rate this past fall. We are not, I don't believe, preparing to actually entertain on the floor sort of conversations about this because of this article, because the town and the board have already committed to looking into it to consider in the future with research. And so we will just be allowing the petitioner to speak. You'll be allowing him to speak, and we'll be there, essentially.
Mr. Chair, just curiosity, because the petition has never come into us. I mean, we have never had an explanation of this. I asked Mark if the language is exactly what the petitioner asked for, and that's what we did. Have you had any dialogue with the?
Done.
Okay.
And then, last 36 articles,
Nice.